Building hasn't changed too much, has it?
No,
No, but now I wanted to ask you, was that right there? Was there a different entrance used for the Legion? In those
No,
days?
we never used that.
Never used that.
Never used it to my
I
knowledge.
think when they were there in that bar room, they could go out there.
That's right.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
they could do that.
Because now I know.
But I
nobody-
remember the auxiliary of the American Legion. We planted magnolia trees.
Okay. Okay.
And there's still some of them are
Still there.
still there.
Okay.
Well, it was really connected with the Playhouse. The Legion got there first with their part of it, and there was a park corporation. And later on, when the spiritualists wanted to move there, why, they wanted to buy all of the stock to the park. And there was a group of citizens who got it together and bought it. And that's how eventually Ephrata got the park.
The entertainers around the area, nationally known entertainers, would stay there, and then they would provide their services for the Lions Club because they weren't working on Mondays. The Lions Club met on Mondays, and we had some mighty good entertainment, really good entertainment.
Well, we had very well-known bands.
Yes.
That came, big bands that
Yeah.
came Sunday nights.
I could sit on my back porch on Park Avenue and hear the band music
Yes.
on Sunday night.
Is that right?
But
Wow.
Yeah, Benny Goodman and you know, all those.
Oh, well,
don't
there's
remember him being
another one
there.
that always
Oh, they-
played on New Year's Eve.
oh, Guy Lombardo.
Guy Lombardo.
Guy
Guy Lombardo was there.
But
We had all those name bands.
it was great.
Oh,
it
it
really
was.
was. That was.
But they played in the park.
Yeah,
in the
it was
park.
a gathering. I mean, you'd see people from all over get there.
It was
But
really.
you know, I remember the Legion, before the Legion was there, they had the greatest baseball field around down there. That was,
That's true.
it was.
right.
On that location?
On that location. They had,
The parking lot.
And so the Park Hotel is still there now. And that-
Oh, the Iker.
The Iker Center.
the Iker
Iker
Center, I
House,
think, yes.
All right.
It's a log house.
There's
That's
Fred.
Fred
There's
Smith.
There's Fred.
That's
There's
Fred
Fred.
Smith.
yeah.
That was
Was-
Fred
was
there
it-
in the last shot
Yeah,
there?
Yes, that was Fred.
He
He
was
was Fred
a-
the postmaster?
He was a
Yes.
postmaster.
He
was a
was,
postmaster.
and his father was the
minister.
pastor at Trinity
Trinity
Lutheran.
Lutheran.
I knew Fred quite
Oh,
well
yes,
because
he
my
was-
dad worked in the post office there, and I remember when the post office was on Washington Avenue.
Okay.
I mean, he moved over there. That
Washington.
was a big deal, man. That moving over there, that was like the
When they built the home.
when they built the new post
Well, that
office.
was a play place
Yeah.
for children.
Wasn't it the
Before
Owls?
Well, the Owls
The
was
Owls
next
was-
Actually,
door.
the Owls was next door,
next door, okay.
but it was like a playground there.
It was a
Well, that was
Yeah,
a
for-
playground
yeah.
because the old Cocalico Hotel was there.
That's right, and that
And that,
burned down.
that
was-
burned away one Thanksgiving.
And he was there for quite a long time
Yes,
because
he was.
He was
because
there
he-
in the 50s.
Yeah,
50s
yeah,
to
that's right.
the 60s.
Is that
And then
right?
some.
Okay. Wow.
he replaced George Whistler, who was the postmaster out in
That's-
Washington Avenue.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Haynes, the
Shoe
shoe wizard.
Shoe man.
Shoe wizard.
Yeah,
Shoe.
he's the one that built that shoe that's on the Route 30, you know, that they're trying to sell now.
Yeah.
He built that for himself, and it was Haynes, the shoe wizard.
Haynes
And
the shoe wizard.
that's right, yeah.
Good shoes,
Well,
cheap.
Macaulay's,
Shoe sheep.
That's right.
Macaulay's hat store, and their
Is that what-
Alberta Herzog had a clothing store.
Birdies.
Verdi's.
that's-
Right next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
She
just
had
above.
married John Kick.
Is that where the awning is there? Is
Yes,
that-
I
okay.
think that's the one.
And then wasn't Wirch's jeweler right
Yeah,
next to
Wirch's-
that?
Wirch's
Yeah,
is
next
Okay.
one.
Yeah,
Where's his?
Is that Junior niece?
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
who it is.
Not
Junior.
Junior, not
And who's
Junior.
Who's junior niece?
Well,
That's his dad.
Is his dad?
Yeah, what's his name?
Charlie.
George.
George.
George niece.
George
George
niece.
niece.
And what?
look at all the wonderful business
Oh, yeah, that's-
stores we had.
Yeah,
in
that's-
Everett.
But look at all the cars on Main Street.
Yeah.
now.
Oh, my.
yeah.
The
Very
stores
much.
were open on Friday night till 9 o'clock.
Was it Friday night?
Friday night,
I
and
thought
then
it
they
was
would
Thursday
skip Saturday, and they were open Monday night. They used to be
Wow.
open Friday and Saturday, weren't that right, John?
I thought it was Thursday and Saturday.
Well, it used to be Thursday and Saturday,
Well,
and before that
yeah.
it was Monday and Saturday,
Yeah.
or Monday, Friday, and Saturday, that we were open till 9 o'clock. and everybody would come to town, park their cars like that, and talk to everybody
Oh,
else.
yeah.
It was a great street to go on. I mean,
Yeah, of course, there was no television in those days.
well, there's no television.
And what would happen then, they'd stand out there and talk until 9 o'clock. Then many a time we were still in the store at 10 or 10:30 waiting on them because they
was chatting.
they talked.
But it was such a friendly.
And
I mean,
the
it was-
young men would gather at Cox's and at
Oh, yeah.
Duple's, and then the girls
oh,
would
yeah,
come
they
along.
Would get the most
you get
appropriate
ice cream
places. You know,
soda.
where,
Is that right?
where, oh yeah, where all the action was. You know, that's.
And I remember Lloyd Gerhardt's yellow, what was it, open car. Remember that?
Roadster.
Roadster.
Oh, wow. And did people, I imagine people came from all over to shop in Ephrata.
Oh, they
Oh,
did.
It was a hub. I mean, it was a.
You couldn't walk on the pavements. You walked
That's right.
on the
It was.
streets.
Is that full?
It was in both sides of the street and
Yeah.
up and down,
Very
and they had
busy.
some great merchants. I mean,
Oh, they did.
Very,
I mean,
a friendly group.
it was. I mean, it was.
But there's so much that has happened in the meanwhile, in the way of mobility and the way of communication, that it just plowed its effort under.
Sure.
That's the
corner.
peanut stand there.
Is that the
behind.
peanut stand there? See
Behind.
where that Coca-Cola sign is?
Yeah, that's
On the
that.
far
Oh, yeah,
right.
that's right next to Billy Good's Jewelry, and across the street was the peanut place there. That's
Okay.
Washington
Right.
Avenue and Main Street
Okay.
there.
You
Yeah,
know, that gentleman only passed away about a year ago.
Savas Valupas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, Whitey, didn't you say that you worked for him? at
I
one
worked
time?
for him. After school, I used to work there with shine shoes, sell peanuts, and brush the dust off cuffs. I mean, that was.
And hats.
And hats. Well, he was a big hat man too.
Oh, yes.
And
Rock hats too.
yeah,
And it smelled good when you went past.
yeah, that's
Yes,
it.
the
Always
peanuts.
did. Yeah.
What was the name of his store?
Didn't have a name.
Oh,
I don't
didn't
think-
have an.
I don't
This
think
was
it.
We always called it the Peanut
the
Man.
peanut man. Yeah. Mm.
But the
You
peanut
know,
butter
you
roast-
could smell it for
They'd
a
have nickel
block.
bags and pounds. I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah. He had the peanut roaster out front. You could smell that
Oh,
a block
yes.
away.
Okay. And where?
Luke
Luke
Strom.
Strom, walking in front of Verdi's.
Chief of police.
Yeah.
Chief of police. yeah.
Okay, now Luke, how long was he? He was chief of police for a long time,
Oh,
wasn't
a
he?
good many
Well, he
years,
was in
yeah.
he was graduated in 1930 with me.
Okay.
He was chief of
And-
police for, what, 20 years, I guess,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Now was he before? He was before Monteremus.
No,
right?
he was after Monk.
He was
After
after
Monk,
Monk.
yeah.
Yeah, he came after Monk.
After Monk.
Okay, so he's a pretty young guy on here then at this point.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He graduated in 30.
I don't think he was the chief of police there. I mean, I think he was just
a
a
policeman, yeah.
policeman. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was a state trooper, and he's going to his office upstairs in the Good Hotel.
They were
had
located in the second floor of the
the
Good
second
Hotel?
floor of the Good Hotel.
If you look very closely here at the spotlighted section of the film, in the background you will see former Ephrata Police Chief Monk Doremus, who was police chief in Ephrata for many, many years, very popular, and was also one of Ephrata's most respected law enforcement officials. Right there in the background, you can see him checking out the scene here in Main Street.
It's Alberta Herzog.
Now that's Alberta Herzog.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she was in my class in school.
She had Verdi's.
Is she on the right or the left?
Verdi's, no,
One on the right.
it's on the
Verdi's
way
dress.
right.
That.
There she
Okay,
is.
that's her. Okay.
There she
Verdi's
is.
dress shop.
Verdi's had a bird out front.
Yeah, yeah. She loved birds. I think she had a nice selection of clothes.
Okay.
She always liked clothes. We were very close friends.
right?
Shirk's Barber Shop. There you are.
That's right. The barber shop was
Was
in the
downstairs.
basement.
That's right. And Goods
Billy
Jeweler
Good.
was right above it there.
So the Pete's Barbershop underground.
Underground,
Which building was he underneath?
under Bill Good's
Bill Good's
jewelry
jewelry,
store.
okay.
Because Pete Shirk used to have that barber shop there, and there was a window right underneath between
Yeah.
Bill Good's.
Look down,
Yeah.
down the steps.
And they would come up there, and I remember getting a haircut there one time. Everyone stopped to look up in the window there because there was a couple of women up there looking at the jewelries there, and everyone was up there, look at this, you know, and it was.
Harvey
Old
himself.
Harvey.
I worked for him carrying newspapers. There's the soda fountain, and that was a great place there.
Was that ever?
That was the
used to-
social center
I
of
loved to
Ephrata.
go there.
They-
All right. Do any of you guys know Harvey very well?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I knew
Tell us
Harvey.
a little bit
Like I
about
said,
Harvey.
Yeah, he was a real nice man, quite a businessman. I mean, he was.
Oh, he was a businessman.
And he used to. He was there. I mean, all the time, and he was paying attention to what was going on.
And he was friendly.
Yeah, and he was very friendly.
Was he the one that actually started H.F. Whiten?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, well that's
Yeah.
Harvey
Okay.
himself.
This
Yeah,
is the first
H.F.
one, okay.
Harvey. Yeah,
Right.
And he started with really very little on that corner.
that's right. I mean,
When he first opened up there, why, he didn't have much capital, I'll tell you.
Now, did they have novelties in that store also?
no,
No.
Not yet? That came later?
Newspapers and magazines
There's a
and
magazine.
the shoe shine.
and shoe shine. That
That
was
was
what he
it.
started.
Okay.
Then when he expanded, he built the other building, and he took the upper half of it and had newsstands and the soda fountain. He didn't have the shoe shine anymore.
No, he got rid of the shoe shine.
But
They
look,
had the magazines, didn't
Yes,
they?
he did.
What would have been the most popular magazine back then in the 40s, would you say?
Probably,
Do you remember?
probably Collier's.
Collier's?
Yeah.
May have been.
Saturday
Was there an
Evening
S-
Post.
Saturday Evening
Esquire?
Post.
Saturday
Esquire.
And Saturday Evening
Esquire,
Post.
Saturday Evening
That's
Post.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Life was a
Life.
big
Oh,
magazine.
Life
And
magazine.
Look was biggie then
Look
too.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. They're coming out with their papers.
The newspaper.
Now,
was
just for
very
fun, can we
popular.
pretend that they're carrying the Ephrata Review, or do you think it was definitely
No,
a
it was-
daily paper?
It
That's
was
the
a daily paper.
Well, I would believe it's a daily
Definitely a daily
paper.
paper.
They had the
the
review
Lancaster.
too.
It's a nice try.
Well, they had the review in the store, but we didn't deliver the review. I had a 300-paper route up Main Street, out as far out to where you are. We used to get down there to and down to the end of Merle, and that was that was
Paper route.
that was the paper route.
There,
There's
that
Hoover,
Hoover
that's
and Snyder?
Hoover and Snyder.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah, that's on
And where was that located?
that was on Main Street,
Where about?
right between Washington Avenue and the
Yeah,
going up toward the theater on,
yeah, well,
on that
it's
same
where
side.
where the Borough Hall is. Yeah, it's where the.
No, that's where
down that way further. isn't it?
that's where.
The other side of the insurance place.
Yeah, that's right.
Where-
It was down
where,
further,
Closer to
closer-
Kirk Goods?
closer to
It
the
was
Peanut
kind
Man.
of like a
Carter's drugstore.
And that's
was
Muggs
Yeah.
himself.
That's
There's
Muggsy
Muggsy.
there?
That's Muggsy.
Muggsy
that's
Snyder.
Muggsy
Yeah,
Snyder.
That's
Okay.
Muggsy. He's telling you all
So-
about it.
yeah,
Showing you the modern refrigerator.
yeah.
Now, why did he's going to pull the door open? Now, why did it have a hidden door like that?
Well, that was the freezer chest.
That was the
Oh,
freezer.
freezer
Freezer,
chest.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
See there.
there you
That was
go.
the
He's-
freezer.
He's going through all of this,
He's
showing
showing
all,
you that
the-
refrigerator.
all the space there.
All the spaces in the front there.
Probably buy that
Well,
for
I'll
about
tell you, if you-
$125 then too. I guess.
Yeah.
$25. Now, if that was Snyder, who was Hoover?
George,
With
was it
his,
George Hoover, was it?
Yeah, that was
Well,
George.
there's Royers.
Yeah.
Royer, that's the new building.
That's the new building. Yeah.
Was that built shortly? This movie was made in 1940. When was the new Royer building built? Right before that?
Right
Yeah.
before that, it's not very
Yeah.
long. And up there was, you'd have
Yeah.
Schnicks up there.
There's
that-
Schnicks.
Everly Shoe was on the corner.
Everly
Everly's.
Everly Shoe was on the corner, and then was the restaurant, and then was Royer's pharmacy, and the Royer's house was built next to the railroad.
Okay.
That's where they lived.
Yeah.
June Garver's dad had an ice cream factory in the back on that little corner.
And what was that called?
Well, Garver's ice
Garver's
cream.
Ice Cream. Okay. And the Royer, who actually ran the pharmacy then?
George himself.
George ran it.
Yeah.
Okay.
George also tended the soda fountain, I know.
Okay.
Then
But
John
my clerks
Weidman.
used to go down there and they'd spend a lot of time down there
Down at the soda
talking.
fountain.
But John Weidman took it over then, didn't he?
Okay.
Well, I have to tell you one that happened.
Go ahead.
We had Wayne Graham and Hugh Eisman as our employees. And Charlie Rickenbach and I were the kids. And one day, the two of them figured out that they would send them down to Royer's, where Billy Carter worked, and these two guys would kid each other for a quart of pigeon milk. And so Ricky stayed a long time. And finally he came back with a quart of white liquid and a bill for $8. So then the fun was on whose foot.
Well, he was across the street from the
Across
Peanut Man,
Washington
yeah.
Avenue.
There several jewelry stores downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Was
Ju- Wirches was there.
Birches,
Birches, Bill Myers.
Bill Myers.
Bill Myers
Oh, that's the
But that's Billy on the left.
couple there. That
behind the counter, yeah.
Bill was quite a boy.
Yes, he was. He was.
Quite a boy.
He was a good merchant, and he
Yes.
did a lot with the Merchants Association.
Yeah.
He was pretty enthusiastic with that.
Yeah,
Harry
You're
Gerhardt.
going to see Harry and Lloyd.
And
Well,
that
Lloyd,
was Hallie.
there's Lloyd.
Lloyd's in the hat.
Yeah, sure, that's Harry.
Harry
On the
Gerhardt,
left.
the
Right there
father.
in the sewer,
right
right?
there.
The main store was located where the Ephrata Hall is now.
That's right. As far as I know, it's,
Yeah,
And the
that's
lumber
right.
yard was located right off Fulton
Well, but-
Street there, right?
Yeah.
That was where the old electric light plant used to be.
Oh, okay. Wow, didn't know that.
There was that Ephrata made its own electricity at one time.
Harry.
Good.
That's Harry Hoffman there.
That's
He's
Harry
on the
Hoffman,
right?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Harry.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and you
One of the finest
with him?
Christian men I've ever met.
Harry Hoffman.
Yeah, he was a great
was.
man. He was. I knew
He
him.
was.
Now, how did you know him, Paul, again? Can
I
you tell
worked-
that story?
I worked for him.
Okay.
I came from Lancaster
Yeah, that
and
was
came to
Harry
work for
Hoffman.
them, and worked for them for a couple of years, and then Mr. Eitner died, and then Mr. Hoffman sold me the business, sold me the funeral business, and sold the furniture store to Hummer Snyder and Catherine
Yeah.
Snyder, his
Yeah.
daughter.
Were they all in the same building?
Well, the funeral home used to be in the back, but then when I came here, they had bought the house across the street where our funeral home is now, and tore it all apart and put steel beams in and everything, and then made it bigger. And of course, we've enlarged it several times
Sure.
since then.
But you say that in the old, when Einar and Hoffman, the funeral home used to
Funeral
actually be
home
in the back of the
Used
furniture
to be in
store?
the
Did,
back on the alley of it. There were 2 Congolium rugs on the floor, 4 pull chain lights on the ceiling, and benches around the edge. And you had to go through the furniture store, or the garage at the furniture store in the back off of Church Street, or go through the alley between Harry Hoffman's house and the furniture store to get into the funeral parlor. Well, I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
When Moyer Hoover was the funeral director that we know about, was the original funeral director in Ephrata. It's Moyer D. Hoover. He had a place down on the corner of Fulton Street and Main Street. There's a stone there, and the front step says M.D. Hoover on the front step of the house now. And he had a livery service and things like that. So he was getting older, and he saw Mr. Eitner uptown one day, and he said, Levi, he says, I'm getting old. You have the men there, you build furniture at your furniture store and everything. Why don't you buy me out? And Levi told me, he says, the price was never quite right. So one day they were uptown talking again, and said the price was right. So Levi came back to the furniture store, which was behind Sprecker's hardware store at that time, I understand, and said to the men, take the team down to Moyer Hoover's and hook up the hearse and bring it up here. We're undertakers now. And then he said, he vowed he would never be an ice man. They used to put the bodies on ice boxes, and he chopped up the ice boxes. We have since bought some from other funeral homes. We have them in this storage. But he went to school for, I think he said, for 3 weeks to learn to embalm. He said, I wasn't a very good embalmer when I started, but he said, I improved, and I understand from people that he did really improve too. So that was it. The furniture store was well known for fine quality furniture, and I used to work in the furniture store too, as well as working busy with funerals, worked in the furniture store.
Again, we talked about Harry Hipschman already. I guess he's always synonymous with the Ephrata National Bank.
Yes, that's right.
That's no question about it.
I knew Harry Hipschman very well. He
Do you
was a
remember-
director of our company.
Oh, he was?
Oh,
For
yes.
a long time?
Well, quite a while.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And did you remember having to go to him for banking purposes at all? Or?
Oh, I went to the bank once in a while for banking purposes. He was a very independent individual and a good thinker. And he always had his umbrella.
And cigar.
And his
and,
overshoes.
His,
And overshoes,
And
yeah.
overshoes.
Yeah.
You keep your head warm and your feet warm, he'd always say. And he carries umbrella.
And he was also a very good school director for many years.
yes.
And he was
He was a disciplinarian.
he was a disciplinarian.
Yes, he was.
I remember I made my first loan. I was about 13 years old, and my great uncle gave me a raspberry patch, 2 acres of raspberries to harvest on the half. And I needed some shears, cutting shears, and my mother said, you know, this would be a good idea to go to the bank, and so I went down there and borrowed $5. And they had me see, this is true, they had me see Harry Hipschman, and he said, well, young man, he says, how much do you need? And I said, well, I bought the shears at your place for $5. I still have them, as a matter of fact.
Oh, my.
I do.
They were good shears.
They were good shears. I got them for
Lifetime
$5, a big, you know, the pruning shears. And he said, now, young fella, he says, how do you plan on paying this back? Well, I said, as soon as I sell my first raspberries, I'll come and pay it back. Well, when the raspberry seed came, that's the first thing I did. I went in and paid it back. He said, you have good credit now, young fella.
And again, this was located next to the review building?
That's right.
And Abe Cohen's, was that men's and women's shoes, or was it?
Yes, it was.
Men's and women's shoes,
Yes.
Okay.
but it was men's clothes. He didn't have
men's
any.
clothing.
He didn't have women's clothing, not to my knowledge, anyhow. But
That-
shoes he did.
They had men's clothing.
Men's clothing, yeah.
And
Did you know Abe Cohen very well?
Abe Cohen. I saw a pair of beautiful beige suede shoes in the window, and I convinced my mother to buy them for me, and she did. And she said, now this is for Sunday school. And then I wore them to school one day, and boy, did I ever get it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
I loved shoes then, and I love them now.
Yeah, sure.
They had
Look at the price there.
women's,
A dress is
and
$198.
198 for a dress there, huh?
And up. But he did. It was like a department store. He had a little.
it was like a
everything.
department
Yeah.
store. Yes.
Matter of fact, they had
Candy?
They had
and they had a downstairs. They had sporting equipment.
Oh, okay.
That's where the pharmacy was there, right
yeah.
there.
Pharmacy.
Yeah. the
Well, that's
pharmacy.
where it is.
CVS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
CVS.
in the middle there, between that, between Harris and Penny's, used to be the A&P, American and Pacific store.
Atlantic.
Yeah.
A&P
That
store.
Now, Mr. Cox was very, that's Mr. Cox,
Yeah.
I think, in the center,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. And then there was Reed,
Reed Cox.
Reed Cox,
Yeah.
and
There's Junior Niece. See,
that's Junior Niece,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Now
And there's the Hess girl.
Now, this was the famous soda fountain where
That
the,
was-
Oh,
the
yes.
jiggers were
The
made?
Brown
Jiggers,
cows.
that's right.
Brown
Brown cows
cows.
and Jiggers?
And
Okay.
Jiggers.
What was in the brown cow, Ann?
Well, it was chocolate and ice cream.
Okay. So that was your
And-
personal
And milk,
favorite.
yeah.
Stir it up.
Uh-huh. And
That was about a nickel.
That's about a
About a
nickel item.
nickel,
That was about a nickel item, yeah.
Now, everyone always says, thinks now of Jiggers with Mount Gretna has the Jigger shop, but did Cox's have it first?
I think they did.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
they did.
Oh,
I
yes,
think
that
was
only came
It came
later.
later. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
It was a popular
Very
gathering
popular
gathering
hangout.
place.
Yes, it was.
This was popular.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
This is where the boys gathered and the girls.
that's right.
and this is down where Randy Kleinfelder's buildings are now?
Yeah.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Here's-
Mike Stafiri had that.
And
Now,
well,
where
so
is
did
this-
John Kears had it first.
Yeah, Curie's had it.
John
Where
Kears.
is
That
this?
was where,
Right next to the Menser building.
right next to the Menser building,
To
going
west- to the
down
west of
toward
the Menser
Cox.
building.
Where they-
And that guy there was a real sharp dresser. I mean, there's John Kears.
Yeah.
John Kears was in that last
Yeah,
shot. He
yeah,
owned Speedway.
Well,
he owned
did.
Speedway.
And then
Cannon, yeah.
Mike Stafiri took it over then.
And again, where was Giver's located?
Next to Abe Cohen's.
Right next to it.
Yeah, Giver's Grocery. Yeah.
And was this a pretty large grocery store?
That was the
Small?
best,
Oh, yes.
the best grocery
Yes,
store in town, and the
Oh,
biggest
yes,
probably.
it was.
But there's
There's
Charlie
Charles.
Charlie's
Yeager.
Inn.
And over, if you
Charlie's
get,
Inn.
Yeah,
there's
Charlie's Inn.
another.
That's
That's
Charlie's
Alfred.
Inn, and there's Alfred's
That's
Inn.
Alfred.
The guy that really built this one down in Lake Street.
Yeah.
He's the one that built the Super Thrift, which is located
Yeah.
at the hospital.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
That was Alf.
And they had a little bit of everything there.
Oh,
Oh, it was a good
it was a
grocery
good store.
Good
I mean,
stuff,
they
yeah.
did very well there.
And where did everyone park for a grocery store like that? Right on the street?
Right in the street in front. Yep.
They
Yeah.
delivered.
And they
And
delivered.
they delivered.
They
That's-
delivered.
yeah, they
That was the
delivered.
days
That's
of
right, yeah.
delivering.
Okay.
Yeah.
My great-grandfather started it in 1868,
Okay.
and he run it until about 1900.
Okay.
And then his two sons,
They There it is.
J. Milton Sprecher, and William Sprecher ran it
There's his
until
dad.
around the
There's Leonard.
1920s.
There's Leonard there now.
And then
There is your
my
father.
dad and Clarence took it over,
That's
and they ran it until, well, Dad bought Clarence out in 27, or 37,
That's Mrs. Harry
and
Moore.
Dad ran it until
Mrs. Moeller
1960.
there.
Harry Moore.
Then I ran it from 1960 to 1980, and then my son took over, and he ran it until 2000. So it was there for a while.
Now here's a shot of the inside of the store, John.
Yeah.
Did you guys have both floors then also?
We had what?
The elevator was working then?
Oh,
Yeah, first
that
elevator
one,
in
that's a
town.
new
3
building.
floors.
First elevator in
floors.
town.
Yeah, this is on the second floor. We sold a lot of linoleum in that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure. I believe that is Hugh Eisman, who was demonstrating showing them
Looked
the
like it.
materials.
And that was on the second floor, John.
That was on the second floor.
And then third floor, you had the toys even back then?
No, the second floor had the toys. We would
second
switch
floor
them around. We
toys.
didn't
Okay.
sell toys all year round at that time. We
Okay.
only sold them come Christmas.
Okay.
But that's my dad on the right there at the back, and my mother,
And your dad was Leonard?
Leonard. That's
Leonard.
right.
And what was your mother's name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Betty.
Okay. All right.
My first memories of the store, we still had a horse for delivery, and old Pritz. And then Dad bought a Ford truck, and we would deliver stuff with it. One of the funny ones, of course, was the old guy that smoked the pipe, and my uncle put a handful of smokeless powder in his pocket and shook it, and when he'd stuff the pipe and he'd light it, it would hit a grain of this powder and blow the fire out. And poor Jimmy Ruth was his name, he didn't quite know enough to know what the matter was with it. And he deviled with that for a week before he got a new supply of tobacco.
Wow. And why do you think people loved Sprecher so much, John?
Why? Well, it's demonstrated maybe with a little story about how my Rotary Club decided to roast me one time.
Okay.
And they said, Sprecher's has a big sign up there, we have everything. He can't have everything, he lies. And one of them jumped up to my defense, he said, yeah, but you ever go into the store and want something that they didn't have and come out with something that suited your job better than when you went in?
That's good.
And that was a story, it was a service store.
It was. That's
And
right.
of course, they don't make steam traction engines anymore, and they don't put up stores that have service in them. Right now, if you can't read the labels on the can, you're sunk.
Yeah.
That's the Roxy
There's the
Theater.
Roxy in the background.
Well, that used to, I think the Grand preceded the Roxy.
Okay.
It was the same building, but I think the Grand preceded the Roxy.
Well, where on Main Street is that?
That's where the Ephrata National Bank drive-through
Where the
is
Ephrata
now.
National Bank is.
The drive-through.
Drive-through bank is, yeah.
Owned the Roxy Theater.
Well, it's Stiefel.
Irv Stiefel, yeah.
See, Stiefel and there were 3 or 4 cousins.
So the Stiefels owned this, and then when this burned down, then they built the main.
That's,
Yeah, and then they built the
that's
main.
right.
The main. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then that was converted into stores there.
This at that location.
Yeah, it was Bill Myers Jewelry Store
And Mitchell and Ruth.
Mitchell and
Mitchell
Ruth?
and Ruth,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
That's the lobby of the Goods Hotel.
Now this also, was this considered an upscale hotel or a moderate hotel?
Oh,
or-
it was upscale.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a very nice.
It was very well run.
And a wonderful restaurant.
Okay.
The restaurant
Wonderful
was-
restaurant.
Yeah, it was a really popular restaurant.
Oh, very
Was
popular.
that there for a long time?
Yes,
yes, it was.
yes, it was. And in back of the restaurant was a dance.
Dance hall.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they had dances there. I remember that.
And which good owned the hotel?
Dave.
Dave
Well,
Good.
Dave.
Dave Good, but his
there
mother was she was the,
Oh, she was the one.
she ran that like a
Well, his-
queen.
Were they there for?
Well, they were there for quite a while,
Were
as
they?
I remember, yeah.
Okay. And
I
they
can't
had,
give you a
of course,
date, but
men's and women's clothing. They had everything.
they had everything, yeah.
Imagine.
They had everything, is
That's
right.
right.
Why did we have to lose that?
Yeah, that was a
That
real,
was-
real shame when that
that's
left. Was that a very popular store? when
It
first
was.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
sure.
extremely
Very
popular.
busy store.
Linens and
Sure.
all
They
kinds.
had,
Anything you wanted, you
it
It was
was.
Around the
it was
catalog.
like a department
It
store.
was a
Yeah,
department
it
store.
was a mini department
That's
store.
right.
Yeah, it was anything.
Do you remember who the manager was of the JCPenney store?
Orwick?
Bill,
Oh, that was Ulrich.
Yeah.
Phil Orwick.
Phil Orwick.
Phil Orwick.
Yeah, we
yeah.
mentioned that earlier, right?
But underneath
a lot of local people
JCPenney
worked
on the
there.
railroad side was
Right.
John Chuck's restaurant.
Oh, there's a restaurant down there.
Oh, yeah, that Pete Chuck's dad.
Oh, that's Pete Chuck's dad.
And
Okay.
he had the greatest oysters. I mean, you could get a fried oyster sandwich and a plate of beans or something like that. And we used to go there after a basketball game. We'd get off at the square and go up there, and for 15 cents you could eat like a champ. You know,
that's good.
and
And then that became Hattie Ibach's restaurant.
yeah,
there.
after
Yeah.
that, that's right.
I guess that clock was there as long as you guys can remember.
As
until the
long as
time
I
we
can
left.
remember. Yeah.
Now, who's coming down here?
That's Ira Kreider
there.
there.
Ira Kreider, that's right.
Ira Kreider.
And that's Sam Wolf jostling around in the back.
Yeah.
My father started with 100 customers on, it was in a house on Franklin Street. And we had a switchboard. And in those days, they were in homes. And we were there a short while, and then we were growing. And he moved. I was going to say something earlier on, but I thought, well, I'll wait because I remembered that you had this picture. But we moved then on Main Street in Ephrata on the second floor of the Jaeger building. Now, Jaegers had their operation on the right side. We were on the left, on the second floor. And I'm just a child, and I loved to go up and down those steps, you know. That was something. And they had a water fountain, you know. Well, that wasn't on the farm. I was born on the farm, so I loved when I could go there and I could play with a water fountain. And my sister was Bertha. She was the bookkeeper and so forth. And she was a school teacher. And my father asked her not to take a school again. He needed her in the business. And he had found Christian Eby, who was trained in Lancaster. He was an installer for the Bell system. How he got him, I don't know, but the Bell at Reading and Lancaster were very friendly to my father while he was building this business. And anyway, he came. It was founded in 1911, and he came on the scene in in October of 1912. And then he brought his family, Dave and Betty and Edith and Christian.
Chris.
Now you don't.
I remember Chris.
You remember
Yeah,
that.
I remember Chris.
But
yeah.
you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Christian died a
I
very
know.
tragic death.
Tragic.
Now, my father says to Bertha one day, Bertha, he says, I have to have you. Now, I don't want you to take a school. But Mr. Eby, I've heard him talking to the farmers that come in. And that's the time, that was during the days that the economy wasn't so good. They'd bring eggs in and chickens in, and we'd use it as, you know, and resell it.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they didn't have the money to pay for the telephone. And he'd say, Bertha, I can't have Mr. Eby telling people the wrong thing. If he should say yes, he says no, and when he should say no, he says yes. Now he says, I don't want you to have a school, you come with me. Or he says, I'm going to have to give up the business. Well, she started in 1913 then, and was there for
What a job she
72
did.
years.
Yeah. Oh.
So it's been, I've been connected with, of course, the company for since 1936. Really, they taught me how to operate a switchboard, and then it was me that had to run over to the office if somebody didn't show up on a weekend or a holiday or Saturday or Sunday or all night. I had to work sometimes all night. And I didn't make any fuss, you know. I was there alone in the building. They said, lock the door and don't let anybody in. So it was, then, of course, we were growing, and then we bought a building up here. It was a clinic. Finally, we built the building, and it was in 1932. Then that building was... that we went into it.
Okay.
Well, and as growth came along, you know
About
the other
60 years
story.
later. Yeah, we are
So
now.
we then built another building.
Now this building right here, is this the one?
Well, that's the garage that we
Okay.
had initially when we. That was during the time that we were in that building. It was set back, and then
Okay.
we built in front of it, you know,
Okay.
and then we built in back of it and the side of it.
This was
until
located right behind
yeah.
where
Now
you are
there's
now.
Bertha,
Right, that's Bertha
and
Center.
there's Mr. Eby,
Yep.
and that's my father.
Father's on the right. and
Yeah,
Evie's
my
on the
father.
left.
Now here's Helen Weinhold
Yeah.
as an operator.
She's in
Now
the foreground?
that's she worked for us for quite a while, and that was Lottie Keel. She was the supervisor. This is Fern Furlow Brossman. She married my brother, Bill. So that's who she is, and those are tickets
Uh-huh.
that we had to
free-
fill out at the switchboard for all the long distance, all the long distance, yes. And she's the one that is going over them to see whether we got the right money for the number of minutes that they talked.
Talked on the phone.
So if you remember Mr. Moyer, well, okay. Now every day at a certain period of time, and I've forgotten what it was, I think it was 9 o'clock in the morning, he would make a conference call in those days to New York, because that's where he had his office to take care of the sales in the area. And if you didn't get that call through right away, boy, he would let you know about it.
This is Mr. Walter W. Moyer?
Walter
Okay.
W. Moyer. And I respected him no end. I worked there for 2 years.
Did you? Okay.
And that's where I got my experience.
Okay.
I only learned there's only one way of doing anything, the right way.
That's right.
No mistakes. You didn't make any mistakes. And then I got this idea, why am I walking past D&E for going to Moyer's? I worked there 2 years, going to Moyer's, all kinds of weather, come home for lunch, go back, walk again. Why don't I go over there and work for D&E? Now, but this time I'm through college,
Sure.
and I thought I was going to really get what I was trained for. Well, that didn't happen. My father says on graduation day in Trenton, "Where are your things? We're taking you home." I said, "I'm not going home." He said, "You're not going home." I said, "No, I have an appointment in New York. I'm going to have an interview." I had one, and they want me to come back after graduation. He says, "You're going home. Get your clothes."
There you go.
Now there I am on the
Far left.
very end.
Yeah.
And Mr. Eby he's explaining something to us. I don't know exactly what it was, but there's Catherine Leibensberger over there, and that's Bertha. And Mr. Eby, I don't know all of them. Mary Director. That looks like Betty Eby. I think it is Betty
On the
Eby.
right?
In the middle.
Yes.
That's great.
Well, I've had wonderful people around me.
Yes.
And that's what you need.
Yeah.
Mr. Lyman over there. Bertha's the one that brought him in. And that's one of the best things she could have done on the day of her demise, mind you. Mr. Lyman is adjusted now, and the two of you will make a good team, and you'll get along fine. Mind you, on the day of her demise.
Okay.
That's,
Wow.
So anyway, I climbed the ladder.
Climb the ladder.
And
You made
didn't-
it.
You made it.
And you didn't slip or fall either.
No, you didn't.
That was
On
on
Locust
Locust
Street.
Street.
Locust Street.
Going up
Where
the
you-
hill there.
Where the
There's a
parking
little
garage
alley
is
there.
now.
Yeah. In fact, your garage is there
We-
now. Yeah.
We demolished it.
And Clyde Arbogast.
The fellow on the left was, yeah.
That's a Clyde on the left,
Yeah, that's Clyde.
and the guy getting the bread out, or whatever it is.
I don't know
Not
who
sure
that
who
was.
that
But
Well, I
Fred
think
was,
he was the driver.
That used to be.
Bringing the bread or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they used to deliver fresh to your home.
Oh, yes.
oh yeah, well,
yeah.
I remember back when they delivered it with horse and buggy.
That's
They'd
right.
come up through, and he used to make the most delicious cinnamon bun.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
Okay.
I know, because I was going to Washington Street School there, and that was on the way home. And after school, you could go in there and you get, instead of day old, they didn't sell them that day, but you could get them for like 2 for a nickel. You know, and it was a great, it was a nice place to stop.
They're on their
There's,
on their
that's Wayne
property.
Heberling there.
Wayne Hemmerling?
Wade Heberling, yeah.
Heberlich,
Yep.
yes.
He
Is
lives
that
in-
Heberlich?
He was,
That's the Schaefer home
yep.
Yeah, up in
Up-
Highland Avenue.
across from this
High
high
school,
school.
yeah.
High school, yeah.
Neff's
That's
store at
the
your
store
door.
at your door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
But that was at the corner of Bowman's lived that
Frank.
house there.
yeah,
Franklin,
yeah.
Yeah.
Franklin and State.
Yeah. Well, that is a Neff store, yes.
Yeah, the first shot. with,
Neff's store was on State Street. It was a
The
grocery store.
A grocery store on
Grocery store.
wheels, yes.
On wheels.
And did they do that for many, many years?
Oh, they did it, as far as I did it, for quite a couple of years.
Okay.
And they used to, on the side streets where they used to load up, though, and, you know,
Okay.
Franklin.
Yeah, this is
Kurt's
concrete
brothers.
plant.
And this is one
Down
located
south,
behind
back of Hunt Motors or
Hunt
back.
Motors, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I know them. Kurt's
John
people.
and-
All the Kurt's.
John
Kreider.
Kreider.
Yeah, I knew the old man too.
I knew Kreider.
AG,
I've forgotten what his name is.
AG Kurtz had the quarry.
AG, that's right.
And what did AG stand for?
I think Aaron,
Aaron, okay.
but he built the house across from close to the rec center,
Oh, okay.
the old stone house up there. Is that?
I knew
A
him
good,
very well.
a good Democrat.
What-
He is a good Democrat. He was a Republican at one time.
Was he though? Oh, I didn't know that.
I guess we should point out that he would be Robert Fosnock's brother, oldest brother.
Oh,
He was
absolutely.
a well-known Republican.
Yes, he was
I
a.
guess he and
Notice
he and
that
Grandpa
that
some
had
good
floodlights on it.
discussions, right?
Pardon?
Notice the sign on there. Go
Says
back a little.
floodlights.
Yes. Now,
Floodlights.
he made floodlights. The floodlights were invented by Ephrata's genius,
Yes.
Davy Royer,
Dave Royer, yes.
Dave
yes.
Royer.
and he made them for it.
Well, they call him Floodlight Davy, didn't they?
Yes, that's right.
And the reason he was a genius, he was the first man to concentrate the light in a small spot. And they sold these floodlights up on Broadway. That was a good business, very good business.
This
That's-
would be Locust Street?
Yeah.
Is that
that's-
correct?
Well, that was our building. We used it as a garage
Oh, you used it as a garage.
Oh.
for our cars.
That's right.
That's
After-
and then we sold it to the church.
After the fire company.
That's where I started out as a Boy Scout, because the Boy Scouts met up there.
Okay. Okay.
And
And did the fire company hold dances up there, or?
Yeah.
They do you remember, John? The church used to have their sauerkraut suppers there.
That's right. They held all kind of things. It was
Yes.
a real
It was
nice
it
big
was-
hall
it
up
was a-
there.
It was up
very
there
nice
that
facility.
it was kind of a social hall
yeah.
that you could.
And the Borough Hall was on the first floor?
Second floor.
Oh,
The
Borough
first
second
floor was
floor.
the
Second
Pioneer
floor.
Fire
First
Company.
floor,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
But that
was
was quite a a trek to go up there and those
Yeah,
with
those steps went up like that.
Yeah.
Yes, they went
Straight
up
up.
like that. Is right.
Okay.
we used to run up as kids.
And then,
Well, we can't run anymore.
No.
and I hope, did the fire company only have one truck back then, or did they have the
No,
truck in
no.
this building, or?
They had a truck and they had an old ladder wagon.
Okay.
I don't think there was any water connected with it,
Oh, okay.
but just ladders hung onto it.
All right.
There's Orpha
There's
Kennard.
there.
Orpha Kennard.
Orpha
That's
Kennard.
Kennard.
That's Pappy.
Who's this guy right here?
Zimmerman.
He was custodian.
He was a custodian dressed in a suit.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes, they dressed up
Okay.
in those days.
oh yeah, that
That
was
was
And
Franklin
what was his
What
name?
was his name, John?
Zimmerman.
Zimmerman. Pappy Zimmerman.
Oh, Pappy Zimmerman.
That's the
Yeah,
Highland
that's-
school.
that's
That's
Highland
Highland
School.
All
Yeah.
attended Highland with exception.
I
Yeah,
did.
but
How many classes were in the high school back then? From grade 7 on up, or how
From
was
grade 7 on up,
Yeah,
yes.
7 on
Okay.
up.
So it would have been a couple hundred kids for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was built about 1928 or 9.
The Highland School was.
Yeah,
Okay.
and because I think we were the first class that really graduated out of that.
Okay. Okay.
First class that was in
Yeah.
for all year.
Who was your principal back then?
Was it
Well,
Hartzler?
first was Gaiman,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and then Winkelblick,
Then Hartzler.
and then Hartzler.
Hartzler. Okay. He was there for a long
Chester
time.
Yeah,
Hartzler.
he
He
was
was,
there for a
quite
long
a
time.
fella.
Yeah.
Chester.
Chester Hartzler was quite
Oh,
a fella.
yeah, he was great.
Quite a guy.
Now,
A very great disciplinarian. I mean,
well, Gaiman was a very thinking man, an educated man. He introduced calisthenics to this was back in Washington Street. He was principal there. But that was one of his innovations. Plus, we were pretty great on science, I guess, back in those days.
Okay.
And then when he died, why, Winkelblick took over, and sorry to say, he didn't quite keep enough order for the school board. So they got rid of him, and they got Hartzler in there, who was a very strict
yes,
disciplinarian.
he was. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the class of 29, or when they got to Washington, they misbehaved.
Okay.
So the class of 30 never got to Washington. We
That's
never
right.
forgave them for that.
And that was the senior trip you're talking about?
What? The
Senior
senior trip.
Yeah, and isn't that how you got started with the yearbook? I think June told me then you used
Yeah.
the money that you were going to use on your senior trip
Yeah.
to start the first yearbook.
To
was
start the
third
first
class,
yearbook.
wasn't it? Which
That's Everly's garage.
Which
later
became
became Steffi's.
Steffi's, later became
Steffi's.
Steffi's, yes.
Now, this
sold-
was a service station. Did he
they-
sell cars also?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
He
yes.
sold Buicks.
Buicks. That's right.
I guess no one pumped their own gas in those days.
No, no way. They didn't. They wouldn't allow you.
Now, there is Everly.
There's Everly, and I think, isn't that Doc Fake
On the right
on the right?
street.
On
down
North
towards
Street,
Donikers.
right next to Chestnut Street. Chestnut Street, and there was a house, and then there was this building.
Wasn't that where
Well, is
Clayton
it
Hoover?
still there?
I think this is still there. They make
Clayton?
trophies there now.
Oh, Missioners.
Is it
Missioners.
Michigan? Yeah, they make trophies there
Is
in
that
that
where
building.
Clayton Hoover had his dealership?
No, Clayton Huber was out there in the block before that,
Oh, the block before that.
where
Ephrata area social
Social
service.
services.
they was right about there.
You're right.
But Lloyd Moore had this, and the reason I know that, my dad used to take a train down to Philly and drive a car up for Lloyd Moore from Philly and bring it to his place up there.
Okay.
And he would get paid a modest amount for doing it, but he used to take me along, I mean, sometimes on the train, and then we'd come back in this car, and we'd see a ball game down there in Philadelphia at Baker Bowl.
And
Hagee
would this been,
Brothers.
Bill's
this-
grandfather or Bill's that owns it now? Bill's great grandfather.
Well, I don't think it would be probably his father, because Earl Hagee was, who ran the place for many years, he was just a few years older than I was. I mean, when I say a few years, within 10.
Okay.
Uh,
So that's probably Bill's
yeah,
father.
yeah.
That,
So,
that junker would be worth a lot of money there now.
I
amen.
think so.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Hagee Brothers.
Now, look at this. This is what
Yeah, this is good, isn't it?
He's going to break his back doing
Trying to
that.
pull the car up on its side.
And he does.
Yeah, they're cranking it up too.
And he does.
Yeah,
Now,
there-
look
there
how
it comes.
unsafe that is.
Oh, I guess
There-
this was one of the largest employers in Ephrata, I
At
believe.
one time, yes.
Now the
Fred-
Science Press.
Science Press
Fred
took over.
Weber ought to be in that one.
Oh, that's out. This is sign.
Yeah, Stunzy.
Yeah.
Would you remember when Stunzy closed down? 60s?
gee whiz,
go
long,
that
I think it was in the 60s.
long
Okay.
time ago.
They made materials.
Yeah.
That's Mr.
That's
Moyer.
That's Moyer's.
I believe.
Yeah.
Walter Moyer,
That's
Walter
Moyer's.
Moyer. They had 800 people,
800 employees.
employees at one time. I worked there.
So did I.
It looked a bit different then, didn't it?
Yes.
Well, they took out the,
Sure
Think
did.
OSHA will ever pass those belts like that?
I wouldn't think so.
Now that's Pappy Smith.
That's the
Happy
past.
Smith.
That's,
And
yeah.
his son,
And that's
Fred.
his son,
And,
Fred.
and so
Fred,
Fred,
he
that's
was the
right.
postmaster.
That's
And
right.
he lived right next
was-
to our property.
He was the pastor
White
of
House
Trinity
there.
Lutheran for a good many years. A well-liked.
And you knew this gentleman pretty well, Ann?
Oh, yes, I knew Reverend Smith very,
Since you were,
very
since
well.
you were a young lady.
He's the guy
Yes, I
baptized
was
me.
a young lady, but
That's-
I was,
Bethany-
well, I
Bethany
went
Parsons
to the
behind there.
church and I was confirmed. I think he,
He's the pastor.
How
that-
long was he there at the church?
oh, a long time.
Long time.
A long, long time.
Okay.
I know that guy well, but
There's Harry Hoffman in the back.
Harry Hoffman's
Harry
on there?
Hoffman is on the right side.
Okay. Now, this is the ladies' auxiliary for the VFW?
Yeah, I believe it.
This is a Lions Club meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Homer Snyder.
Oh, Homer Snare's on that picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least I think it was him.
I didn't
And this
catch
probably
him.
was in Goods Hotel, maybe?
Now this,
No, the Legion.
Oh, the Legion.
the Legion.
Oh,
This
this
was
is
down
the
the
Legion.
That
Legion.
was
Yeah.
at the
I believe
Legion.
this is
Yeah.
at the Legion,
Okay.
but I didn't know anybody there.
I'll have to look at him longer.
Yeah, well, I know, but I recognize Homer
I think
Snyder.
Lyman
And,
Hammaker's in there. I'm not
and
sure.
I saw
John
Roy
Hammaker's
Lewis
father.
was in one of those
Yeah.
pictures.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bill Carter back on the right.
Bill Carter is the Carter's Pharmacy, Carter?
Yeah.
That's right.
At the head of the table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the right, yeah.
Now, Carter was Borough Council President for many years, wasn't
Yes, he was.
he? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know him very well, John?
Didn't he have the
I know him quite
You know Carter
well.
very well?
Yeah, I do.
Carter's,
Drugstore,
drug,
yeah.
Carter's
Carter's
drug
Pharmacy?
Yeah, they had
Pharmacy.
Carter's drugstore, yeah.
This is just the power plant and the light plant
I can't.
out on
don't-
Church Street.
No. It's out
This is
on 272.
Oh,
270,
that's the sewer
272,
plant. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, this is the comfort station.
Oh, it's a
Well, they
shame they
took
took
that all
down.
out.
They took it all out. That's a shame. I
You
mean,
guys
that was,
disappointed when they took the comfort station out?
I think it was,
Well, I thought so too.
That Art Deco,
It used
Comfort
to be
station
a
there.
pretty popular place.
well, it was
Well, it's a,
it was handy for
it
people
was
who were
handy
shopping.
for the shoppers, and
No,
it was
no, no.
warm.
well, it was warm. It was
it was well kept. It was clean. My grandfather worked there. He was the maintenance man there because he lived nearby there, and I, as a kid, I used to run all over that. I knew that place inside and outside, all the secret passages.
And so that was like a big playground for you.
Oh yeah, and particularly in the summer, and you know, it was, and I knew how to get up to the tower, and there was passages around the tower and trapdoors. You could get down into a room below. I mean, all kinds
Was it
of,
mostly wealthy people that stayed there?
extremely so. And they came from Philadelphia and New York primarily, and they came there for the water. I mean,
That's right.
The magnesium springs were supposedly very healthful and all that bit. And it was very well run back at that time.
It was.
But it's,
And
like,
of course, when did Konigmacher has that?
well, Konigmacher was the one that built it.
He built it.
He built it, and I don't know what the date was, but my grandfather,
Now,
my great-grand,
when did your family then pass it on to the next?
well, they sold it, Harry sold it to the spiritualists,
Oh, so it's a spiritual.
Camp Silverbell.
About what year was that?
And
What?
so-
About 35,
Silverbell.
36, somewhere around there, yeah.
And then they sold it to,
Well, they sold it to the,
Hospital.
The hospital came, when the hospital?
well,
came
the
in?
oh no, the hospital, my great uncle Harry, he donated that wing of his residence for the first hospital there.
Oh,
that's right. It was
And
a
he was
clinic.
still, that was in the 30s, yes.
So about what?
Well, that trolley used to come down there and it stopped before the railroad. It stopped in front of White's. That was the final destination. And it would go up Main and turn down Lake Street and go out there right before where Miley's Dairy was.
Yeah,
It would
go
head
left.
off to the left, up through Akron and then into
There was
Lancaster.
another trolley that went to Lebanon, though. the
Yeah,
other
I know.
way.
That's the one that they used to push going up the Lincoln
Yeah,
Hill.
would you explain that? Why did you have to push it?
Because there wasn't enough power in the line overhead. I mean, the electric, they would go up there, and if they had too many passengers, it couldn't make it, and the passengers would get out and push to get up the hill.
But it was a wonderful hotel.
It was
I
a
used to,
wonderful hotel.
oh, those magnolia trees in front of that hotel. Every spring, I'd look for them, you know. It was a beautiful sight.
And the woodwork inside.
And the wood,
was,
oh.
So it was considered an upscale hotel?
Oh, yes.
no question
It
about
had it had a
portico
on the
out
side,
over the
portico
side.
on the
Yeah.
side,
What-
which was, you know, very unusual. It was the only one in town, I
It had
think.
space
there was-
around it.
Go ahead.
Had space around it. This portico, you could drive
Yeah.
into the portico.
You can,
It was yellow brick, wasn't it?
And there
Yes.
was a good many political speeches came off of that portico because there was a nice area that people could gather below, and any governor candidate, there were lots of them.
yeah. Well, we held. I'm pretty sure that elections were held.
I can see that the white pillars, of course, is the review building.
Yeah.
If you guys could, since this is the anniversary of the review, talk a little bit about in those days.
I did quite a lot of business with them. Also, with old Diffendorfer when I was on the school board.
Okay,
He differed with what we were going to do,
is that right?
and he and I had a lot of fun sometimes.
Is that right? And he was the editor at that time of the review.
Yeah, he was the editor.
So he was writing editorials that you didn't necessarily agree with.
Well, see, we were putting the districts together, and I happened to be president of the board, and he would put out some stuff that I didn't like too well, so we'd go up and we'd argue a while. I had some pretty hot ones with him.
He always listened to you, though, right?
Pardon?
He'd always listen to you, though, right?
Oh, he'd always listen,
Good.
but he had the opposite view. I was spending too much taxpayers' money. But when I see what happened after we put it in, it was the only thing to do for the benefit of everybody and our school kids.
How big of a role did the Effort Review play back in that day as far as getting the news out to the people?
Oh well, it's always been. I never heard any complaints really about the Ephrata Review.
No?
Really,
I really didn't.
the nicest weekly newspaper anywhere around. I would say.
Yes.
The review of the news of the week, but they get it pretty quick, and it's very good.
Yeah.
The
Atlantic and
second
Pacific.
floor
Yeah.
was a club of some kind.
Well,
it
that
was
was
for
a
men.
cloister. That was a cloister club.
All right,
Now
it was
that's
for
where
men.
Farm
men.
Show originated.
Is that right? The Farmers Day Association.
Charlie Yeager, Dutch Bucher, and the professor of agriculture up at Penn State, and my dad were sitting at that window. And Dad always would put the odd-shaped turnip and the biggest pumpkin and whatnot in the window with a card with the owner's name. And they looked at this thing, and now why can't I think of that professor's name? But anyway, he said, well, there's prize money for that kind of thing. Why don't we have a little show? And of course, Charlie Yeager picked it up and publicized it the next year, and they put all of the things that were shown in the windows of the various stores. And they had a tremendous crowd. So the next year when they tried it, why, the church stands wanted to put food stands up on the pavement, and they did. It grew and grew. Finally, the firemen got in the act, and today's result is that.
I'll start
Charles
there.
Jr. He was
Okay.
the one. He promoted the town a lot.
Okay.
So I think we did our part for the community. We actually lived in, I think, one of the greatest centuries that there ever was. If you realize what happened from horse and buggy to computers, change never been like this. I don't know where it's
agree.
gone, but it's getting there
Absolutely
fast.
agree with that.
Yeah.
We lived in the best times.
1900s were the best times.
Oh, they were great times. Yeah.
You're watching Blue Ridge Communications, Cable 11.